Welcome into the FNIA podcast. You know, Tony Dungy, Rodney Harrison. So we've reached that point in the offseason now where you're getting into the OTAs. The draft is behind us, free agency. And so a few guys looking for contracts maybe that aren't at OTAs. We'll get into that as we go. But this is our crystal ball predictions. The best offseason is where we will begin. We'll go through a list of these around the NFL. At this point, who would you say has had the best offseason so far? Rodney, you're up first.
I would say this is pretty easy for me. It would be the Green Bay Packers, and they made some big moves on the defensive side of the ball. You think about Xavier McKinney. He's such an upgrade, bringing him in, paying him a lot of money at the safety position. Also drafting Javon Bullard, but also Eric Stokes. He's back. He's healthy. And then you go out and you draft who I thought was the best off the ball linebacker in Edgerrin Cooper. I think their defense is going to be outstanding. And coach, you get an opportunity to go out and get a 225-pound bruising running back in Josh Jacobs. I'm not saying he's a better running back than Aaron Jones. He's just a different running back. And I believe that Matt LaFleur wanted to become more physical in the running game. But I thought they had a terrific offseason.
Yeah, I think Josh Jacobs is going to help them definitely, especially down the stretch. Weather gets a little colder, and you're going to pound the football, and they had a good one too. I was actually going to lean towards Jack's team, the Cincinnati Bengals, just for one reason. I saw Joe Burrow throw some balls, and it looked like his wrist was okay, so they've got to be happy about that. But I think for the best offseason in my mind, I look at the Philadelphia Eagles. They signed two really top-notch guys, Saquon Barkley on the offense, Bryce Huff on the defense, guys who can give them a lift right away. They had an outstanding draft when you draft two really great DBs and an edge rusher early on. And then down the line, they even got some guys who I think are tough guys and winners, Jeremiah Trotter and Will Shipley, guys who bring that winning environment. But maybe the biggest thing for them was Vic Fangio and bringing in a defensive coordinator with a well-known system and get that defense straightened out. If he can get everybody to buy in, then I think their offseason was tremendous.
I like it. Okay, so then who would be the newest Super Bowl contender? Every offseason you have these teams that maybe weren't in the playoffs that could become playoff contenders, and then you have the teams that were playoff contenders that can elevate and become Super Bowl contenders. The newest Super Bowl contender, Coach, we'll start with you on this one. Where would you lean after this offseason?
I'm going to give you a team that probably nobody's really thinking of, but Pittsburgh Steelers have been very good. They've been, in the race, in the hunt. They just haven't had great quarterback play since Ben Roethlisberger. Well, now they've got
a Super Bowl contender?
Super Bowl contender. You heard it here first. You heard it here first.
Coach, you are caught
Mike
up in
Tomlin.
the Russell Wilson and Justin Fields hype. Are you kidding me? A Super Bowl contender? Now, maybe 9-8 and vying for a playoff position, but the Super Bowl contender, make sure you guys record this because this is absolutely ridiculous.
Okay, they snuck in the playoffs last year, right, with average quarterback play. I like Mike Tomlin, what he brings. They've got that belief. They always have that. Adding Patrick Queen, a reliable linebacker in that system, and then just feeling like, hey, we got a quarterback that can win some games for us. If Russell can win one or two more games for them, I think they can be in good shape. And so you see some of the guys they've added this offseason. I just like them. They're going to be under the radar without question, but let's keep a close eye on those Steelers in December.
Well, my original pick was the Green Bay Packers, and I can go on up and down the list of the reasons why, but I'm going to go with the Houston Texans. And number one, it starts with their head coach. His head coach has done a phenomenal job. You look at their quarterback, he's young. They got so much young talent. Then you add in a Stephon Diggs who's going to come in, and I think he's going to be the right type of guy in that locker room because DeMeco Ryans, he's not going to take any chances with anyone coming in disrupting his locker room. And then on the defensive side of the ball, adding a guy like Danielle Hunter, getting some of these young linebackers like Christian Harris and the young secondary. I just think the Houston Texans are they're able to take that next step with the young quarterback, the coaching staff. The only thing that can stop them are injuries and complacency, and I don't think the complacency even sits in with these guys.
I love that pick, and I love the Texans and what D'Amico did. And C.J. Stroud is just incredible. I think he's going to take that second-year jump. But let me ask you this. Do you think Diggs, is he going to be a help? Is he going to be a benefit? Or could there be some under-the-surface problems there?
Well, and this is what I say to aging wide receivers, and they go to a new system, coach, and then all of a sudden they're not getting the passes. So what's important to him? Is it the numbers he's putting up, or is it the victories? Is it him coming there saying, hey, I want to prove to you guys that I can still play in the 30s, or I'm just going to come here, I'm going to be a great teammate, I'm going to encourage these young guys and be an example? It's really up to Stephon, because I've seen both from Stephon. If he wants to be selfish and he wants to be a weasel, he could be a weasel, but he also could be a great teammate. So I expect great things from him. This is it for him. If he screws this opportunity up, nobody will touch him.
If he goes in with the idea that I just want to win a Super Bowl and I want to contribute, I think they could be off the charts. I really do. Yeah. Hopefully he won't go in saying, I've got to get 10 targets a game and I got to get this many. If he just plays ball for them, they could be great.
And then that's the fear, because you have a veteran guy who's well respected. These young guys look up to him. And if he comes in and he starts being a cancer in the locker room, frustrated because the first 3 games they're 3-0, but he's only got 7 catches, but they're 3-0, and he looks up and Jamar Chase has 21 catches, Tyreek Hill has 25. This is what these guys do, and they start to judge themselves and gauge themselves against other players. But once again, he has to make up his mind that I'm going to be fully committed. I'm going to do whatever the coach asks, whatever team asks. I got plenty of money. They know I can still play. And you got plenty of weapons on that offense. Tank Dell and Nico Collins, them guys can play.
Yeah, that would be my concern, is that history has shown, I think in his mind, he obviously wants to win, but to him, winning in that formula involves getting me the ball. I mean, how many times did you see them going over to the sideline and he'd be talking to Josh Allen, and it always seemed to be maybe a touch here and a touch there. And so the question is, a young nucleus that obviously worked, and C.J. Stroud, who was the leader of that, does any of that get ruffled when you bring in these vets? Because it's Joe Mixon too. They're adding these guys that are supposed to take them over the top and go reach the Super Bowl. And as long as they don't mess up what was already working, on paper, I'm not sure there's a more talented offense, especially when you factor in what C.J. Stroud was able to do, step in early on.
And then being able to add Joe Mixon, a veteran running back who's going to come in with a positive attitude around a bunch of young players, is going to give him a lot of energy and enthusiasm. I mean, you look at this. Joe Mixon is a quality running back. He's great in pass protection. He's smart. Dameon Pierce is going to come and be a guy that complements him. But it's the wide receivers. And Dalton Schultz, new contract, really good player, but it's the wide receivers. And Nico Collins, he showed out last year. Tank Dell, he'll come back and he'll have a big year. But it was Nico Collins who I was thoroughly impressed with this past season.
Yep. All right. How about the must-sign contract? Because this is, like we mentioned at the top, we're at that point where the club's got to make decisions about guys that have had good years, and some of them aren't showing up to OTAs and they want the deal now. For teams, who are the must-sign contracts right now as you look around the NFL?
Coach, let me go here, Coach, because the must-sign contract is Justin Jefferson. He's done everything right on the field, everything right off the field. You got a new quarterback. You got a fresh new beginning as a start as an organization. Why would you not want to pay your best player? Pay this guy. He deserves to be the highest paid wide receiver in the National Football League. You got a quarterback under a rookie contract. This guy does everything you ask him to do. And he didn't even complain about last year, playing on the contract and not getting a new contract. This is a guy that deserves $30 to $35 million a year. He's one of the top 3 receivers in all of football. He's an outstanding player. He's done everything the organization asked him to do. Pay the guy. And plus, if I'm a free agent and I'm looking at how you take care of Justin Jefferson, you can't take care of Justin Jefferson. Why the heck would I want to go to Minnesota and freeze my butt off and play for the Vikings if you can't even take care of Justin Jefferson? There's no way. So free agents, potential young guys in that locker room, if you want to disrupt the chemistry, don't pay Justin Jefferson.
No, I agree with you there. Minnesota, you lost your quarterback. This guy's a star player. He's a delightful young man. Everybody in the
Yeah.
locker room gravitates to him. No question about that. The receiver market, though, Jack, has just gone off the charts. And now
Yeah.
I look at Cincinnati, and they've got T. Higgins and Chase, who didn't show up, maybe because he's trying to help T out. But the one receiver that I would definitely say we need to sign is Brandon Ayuk, because when you're and you know, Rodney, you get to the Super Bowl and you don't win it, man, it takes a lot to come back. They've got some great talent there, but now you get a hardworking player who's contributed for you. He's done it, and you don't take care of him. You don't want to mess up the chemistry when you've got that Super Bowl hangover anyway. Take care of Brandon Ayuk, get everybody back, and get zeroed in on that Super Bowl run.
Coach, I agree with you. Brandon Ayuk was one of my favorite players. I had a chance to pull him to the side and just kind of speak to him, and just a really good, classy kid. If it's me and I had to decide between a young Brandon Ayuk who's coming off a career season or a Deebo Samuel, who you're going to pay, I'm going to try to trade Deebo Samuel and allocate that money to Brandon Ayuk. I just think that he's young, he's exciting. He's a number one receiver, and he proved this past season that he can go up against anybody.
Do you guys think they're going to do it? Like when they drafted a receiver in the first round, did that change any of this calculus decision making? Because you at least thought about it when they drafted Ricky with that first round pick. Do you still think they're going to pay Ayuk? They have some big contracts. You look at Bosa, Trent Williams, and others.
Yeah, that's a problem, and I don't know if that's the reason they did it, and saying, we can't pay everybody, so we've got to get a young guy and bring him up through the system. But if you don't take care of your really good players who have gotten you there, boy, that sends a bad message to the locker room. So I hope they take care of Brandon, because he has done it the right way. He's produced for them, and you don't want to send that bad message.
But that's why I say get rid. Jack. That's why I said Deebo Samuel needs to be traded, so now they can get that salary, that $18 to $20 million salary, off the books, and then they're able to allocate those resources to Brandon Ayuk. I mean, he's a younger guy. Deebo has proven that he's dealt with injuries. I love Deebo. I mean, every time I see him, I get a hug from him, and he's a phenomenal player. I just think that, this is a younger guy. Deebo's been hurt in some critical moments, and I think if I'm going to allocate $20 million a year, $25 million, it's going to Brandon Ayuk.
That's interesting. I mean, they would have to move some things around because they pay Kittle, they pay Fred Warner, they pay a running back in McCaffrey, which a lot of people say, maybe you do, maybe you don't do. That's a large point of contention.
Kittle might be in trouble. Kittle might be in trouble.
Well, and the benefit they have right now is they've got a quarterback who they're paying minuscule amount to. Which it's pretty soon they're going to have to pay him too. So you've got to think that in the back of your mind, John Lynch. A couple of years from now, I'm going to have a big jump in my quarterback pay.
Yep. I think that's exactly right. All right. How about under the radar defensive player of the year? Let's get to the defensive player of the year. This is the crystal ball. We may come back to this when we get to the fall. So who do you think is that defensive player of the year nobody's talking about?
Oh, for me, it's Danielle Hunter. I mean, this is a guy that had 16 and a half sacks last year. He's one of the best pass rushers in the National Football League. You look at him, his body physically, he's an absolute freak athlete. If he played in a bigger market in New York, at Dallas or something like that, this young man would be considered a superstar in the NFL. But he played in a small market with Minnesota. And I think, having Will Anderson opposite of him, being in DeMeco Ryan's system, I think this young man is going to continue to be great. Danielle Hunter, 16 and a half sacks.
Well, I think he's got a chance to do some things. I think that defense is going to be great with the Texans. He's going to be a big addition. I'm going to start with a guy who won't win it, but I think maybe should win it. And that is a guy that I know you love, and that's Antoine Winfield Jr. He gets after the ball. He makes tackles. He causes fumbles. He recovers fumbles. He's a leader back there. Todd Bowles knows how to use safeties. I think he's going to put up some big numbers on a great defense, but he won't win it because, as you know, Rodney, they never go for safeties. But so I'm going to go with Danielle's teammate, Will Anderson. I think adding Hunter is going to take some focus off him. This young man, he really just came into his own last year, and Now having that threat on the other side, I think he's going to do some things. I think they're going to be ahead in a lot of games, and that pass rush is going to be a factor. And I look for Will Anderson to sneak into that conversation with about maybe 12 to 15 sacks on a really, really good defense.
Well, let's not forget about that boy Max Crosby out in Las Vegas. And now you add Christian Wilkins. He's a dominant force in the interior of that defense. Max Crosby had 14? I think he had 14 sacks last year. He was outstanding. And the energy, who plays harder than Max Crosby? Nobody. I have not seen anybody play after play as relentless as Max Crosby. So what you think about that, Jack? You like Max Crosby?
Max Crosby, you can't do anything but like Max Crosby. I don't think anybody plays harder in the NFL than Max Crosby. I'm focused on you guys, though. We were talking about the offensive side of the ball, Houston being one of the most talented teams in the NFL. Now you have two potential defensive player of the years on defense lining up on opposite sides, getting after the quarterback. That sounds like a formula. When you saw how many times they were on Sunday Night Football, already you're going, this is a Super Bowl contender. The way you guys are talking, though, this feels real.
I think it's going to be. And I think both of those guys could have great years because I think their offense is going to put up points and they're going to be in big games. They're going to be playing in front of big crowds. People are going to notice them this year. I love Max Crosby. My question is, who's going to be their quarterback? How many points are they going to put up? If they get ahead in games where he can tee off and rush the passer in the fourth quarter, he's going to do some damage too. But I just like Houston because I think they're balanced. I think they're going to score a lot, and I think they're going to be in some big games where people are going to get to see them.
Absolutely. They are definitely a more complete team than the Raiders. But, with Max and just how hard and his effort and those two guys that we both mentioned, Will Anderson, I mean, that's a sneaky good pick right there, Coach. Because that's a sneaky
under
good
the
pick
radar,
right there.
under the radar.
Yeah. You think the Raiders end up being a playoff team this year? I've had that debate around here. Everyone's a little fired up. They had a little run last year. Do you think that's a playoff team?
I think it's going to be tough because the division is so good. I think Denver's going to be better. They're not going to be a pushover team. I think the Chargers have a chance to really do some damage. You always got to deal with the Chiefs. So the Raiders could be better and still not make the playoffs because they could be a second or third place team in a real competitive division.
I agree with Coach totally. And you think about a team like the Indianapolis Colts, I think they're probably better than the Raiders. You get a healthy Anthony Richardson coming back and just the pieces that they've added on the offensive side of the ball. So it's a lot of viable teams in the AFC, and I think the Raiders could find themselves right there on the outskirts.
Yeah, they'll be a great team that'll beat some good teams, but I don't know that they'll necessarily be a playoff team. Mm-hmm. All right, how about most likely? So we've talked about the top in Houston and Green Bay, and some of these teams we're fired up about. The most likely first overall pick in the 2025 NFL draft. So the team that will finish dead last. Coach, how do we see the bottom of the NFL?
I look at the teams that struggled this year, and the Carolina Panthers, I just don't know where they've made improvements. You didn't have a lot of draft capital. Where do you get those new guys that are going to elevate you? So, and they've got a tough schedule. They play the AFC West. They play the NFC East. They also play the Bengals. I just think it's going to be tough for them to get 7 or 8 wins, and I think they could be looking at that number 1 pick again.
I agree with you, Coach. You look at them offensively, and it's not a ton of talent on the offensive side of the ball. You got Adam Thielen, who's a little older, Deontay Johnson. He's shown flashes of, doing some good things, but he's so up and down, inconsistent. And defensively, I think they're going to be better. Adding Jadeveon Clowney, J.C. Horn, he comes back. But this team, I just don't think they're very good. Bryce Young, I still think he's going to run for his life. They should have some improvement, but I think this is going to be the team that has the number 1 pick. And who's going to be the team that has the 2nd pick, Coach?
Well, if I were a betting man, I would maybe look towards the Commanders. That's another team that struggled this year. They're going to be playing a rookie quarterback, very talented, but is he going to be able to elevate them that quickly? We'll see. Those were my 2 picks for the teams I was thinking about to have the number 1 pick, and the Commanders have a tough schedule too. So they play the AFC North, which is going to be very good. Obviously, the East that they're in, NFC East, is going to be tough. I just don't know where they're going to get a lot of wins.
Yeah. I look at the Patriots, Jack. Excuse me 1 second. I look at the Patriots, and I just see with, the young quarterback, he looks like he's going to need some time to sit on the bench and watch Jacoby Brissett. And then Jacoby Brissett, he's a good veteran player, but he's not the full-time starter. So I just think the Patriots have a lot of issues on the offensive side of the ball. They don't have a lot of talent, kind of like the Carolina Panthers. And I think they're going to struggle this year. I think it's going to be tough for them. I think Gerard Mayo's going to make the defense better. He's going to improve the defense, but I think they're going to struggle.
Rodney, I'll say this. I visited the Patriots camp last week, and the atmosphere and the attitude was incredible. These players have taken to Coach Mayo. They believe in him. I agree with you about the talent level. I think they're going to pull out some games just on will and desire and drive and attitude, and we'll see how far that takes them.
Yeah, that sounds like the old Patriots.
I mean, that's going to be tough, though, right? I mean, they're going to play basically everybody they're going to play in the division is going to be better than them. So none of those wins are going to be easy. I mean, they could be in contention very easily for that first overall pick again.
Yeah, because you look at them, the three teams that are in front of them, those teams are better than them. You look at the Jets, the Buffalo Bills, all those teams are the Miami Dolphins. They got better this offseason. They're going to be back this year healthy with some of their defensive guys. And you look at they start right off at the Bengals on the road. Then you got to go and play against the Seattle, the Jets, 49ers, Dolphins. Coach, like you said before, I would not think about starting him to week 7 in Jacksonville, in London.
Yeah, no, you're right. That is a tough opening schedule, and they're going to have to really fight to get through that. If they can, I think they can do some damage in the second half of the year. But I'll say this, I was really impressed by the attitude of that team and the way they worked, what I saw and the way they've taken to Coach Mayo. It's a tough situation. You never want to replace a legend. They've got a lot of things going against them, but I wouldn't bet against them.
Okay. Yeah, and I would never. And I'm sorry, Jack. My last point with Coach Mayo, I would never bet against Coach Mayo. I mean, as a player, he was always very humble. He worked his butt off, and he was always prepared. So Brewski and all those guys always had a level of respect for him, even when he came in as a first rounder. He was no nonsense. And now he's provided kind of that environment to let these guys be themselves, have a little bit more fun, but still take care of business. I agree with you, Coach. I think he's going to be fantastic for the Patriots.
All right, so Rodney's safety of the year. This is something I feel like we talk about on a weekly basis. Just as we watch these guys play, we got all the screens going simultaneously on Sunday, Coach. So first, give us some nominations, Rod. Who are some guys that could be up for safety of the year? And then who's your pick? Who's your favorite going into 2024?
All right, so I'm going to give you my top safeties in no particular order. I'm going to start with Antoine Winfield. He's been phenomenal. Kyle Hamilton, Minka Fitzpatrick, Derwin James, and I got to go with Jesse Bates of the Atlanta Falcons. I would say my safety of the year, I anticipate being Antoine Winfield, Coach, because of the exact reasons that you mentioned earlier. Todd Bowles is an aggressive coach. Defensively, he's going to blitz Antoine. Antoine can do it all. He can play the deep part of the field. He can blitz. He can cover tight ends. I mean, he does it all. And you start looking at his stats, over 120 tackles, 6 sacks, pick sixes. I mean, he probably should have been Defensive Player of the Year last year, Coach. That's what we were ranting and raving about, how well he played.
If you look at statistics and what he does and what he contributed, getting the ball back, taking it away, making tackles, just elevating his team's play, blitzing. And Todd Bowles, you're right. Todd Bowles was a safety. He knows how to play the position. He knows how to utilize that position. I think he's going to do even more for them this year. I love Kyle Hamilton, and I don't know how you can be a more complete player than him. Kyle Hamilton is going to stand out on a great defense as well. But I love Winfield, and I think he's just beginning to see what he can do.
All right, guys, yeah. I got to show you something from the year 2000, Coach. I had 127 tackles, 6 sacks, and 6 picks. Antoine Winfield had 122 tackles, 3 interceptions, 6 sacks, and 6 forced fumbles, right? That year, I think I was probably making $3 million. He's making $30 million.
You were born just too early. That's all. You were born too early. But those statistics are very, very interesting, and the correlation is there. He doesn't have your big body, but he plays the game the same way. He's very, very smart. He's around the football. He knows what's going on. He's got the skills to play at all 3 levels. He's just a great player, and I love to watch him.
And Derwin James, for me, I'm really excited about him. I think he gets back on track, Jack. Last year, we talked about them playing him wrong. Brandon Staley playing him 25 yards in deep coverage. And now with a new defensive coordinator, get him closer to the line of scrimmage. I think that defensive coordinator is going to provide him with more energy and more opportunities. I expect him to have a huge year.
Love it. All right, so we'll do the same thing for you, Coach Dungy. The top rookie head coaches, and we're going to allow the guys now that have been, the Harbaughs of the world, Dan Quinn, that have been head coaches before, rookies in 2024. So all these new guys, who do you think is the best year?
Yeah, we've got 8 new coaches, which is crazy. A fourth in the league is their coach is going to be in their first year. There are a bunch of guys who are in their first opportunity, and I like a little dark horse name in there, Mike McDonald. I think he's going to Seattle. He's got a good offense established there. He'll bring the defense. What they did in Baltimore and his kind of mindset is going to be great. I think they've got a chance to have a better year in Seattle than people think. But my first-year head coaches that I really think are going to have the most impact and the best opportunity to make the playoffs, Raheem Morris in Atlanta. Atlanta was a decent team last year. They'll play better defense under Raheem. And they've got now a quarterback, established quarterback with Cousins. So I think watch out for them. But Jim Harbaugh, I think, has a chance to make the biggest splash, Rodney. Come in there. We looked at the Chargers. We thought they underachieved. Now this coach has taken a team to the Super Bowl. He's taken a college team to the national championship. He's coming in there with some swagger and respect. And I think they're going to play and he's got a really good quarterback, too.
Coach, I think you said it perfectly, and I think Harbaugh is the cream of the crop when you talk about these coaches. He's, like you said, he's taken team to national championship, took a professional team to a Super Bowl, and I think he has it. He has the mindset of how you deal with the Chiefs. He's going to run the football. He's going to make it as physical and ugly as possible, and I think he's going to do wonders for the Chargers. I think he's going to push Justin Herbert. He's going to make him a better quarterback, and he's going to hold those guys accountable. A lot of the mistakes that we saw the Chargers make in the critical moments of the games, they're not going to do that under Harbaugh. They're going to be a lot more mentally tough, and he's a no-nonsense guy. He was that way as a player. He's that way as a coach, and I'm really looking forward to seeing, you talk about Mike McDonald. I think he's going to be really good in Seattle, but it's Harbaugh for me.
What's his personality, Coach? Because he's somebody that's a little bit of a mystery, I feel like, on the national stage, just in terms of who he is. Who is he? How did he end up getting this job, if you had to explain it to a fan that doesn't know?
He's a tough guy, and you have to go back. He's old school. Okay, University of Michigan, Bo Schembechler, played for Mike Ditka as a pro in Chicago. That's his mentality. Tough, physical. This is how we do it. No nonsense. But he's enough of a player's coach too. He understands what it is to play and what these guys need. So I think Rodney described it well. A physical presence who knows how to play, but there's not going to be a lot of frills, and there's not going to be a lot of mistakes that are tolerated.
And then how about your pick and Mike McDonald? How about him? What makes you go, even with all these guys, Harbaugh included, McDonald could be the one?
Well, I think Seattle has some talent there. I think they're going to do some things on defense. I love what the Baltimore Ravens did on defense, and he'll bring a lot of that to the table. He also, for a first-year guy, he realized that he doesn't have all the answers, and he hired Leslie Frazier to be his kind of consultant, assistant head coach, a guy who's been there in the past, who's been a head coach, who's been in the playoffs. And I just think that combination of his energy and freshness and what they're going to do on defense, and Coach Frazier helping him with some of the subtleties, and they've got a good team in place. So I think look out for Seattle.
Well said, Coach.
Seattle Seahawks. Could they be the team? No pick of Dan Quinn wasn't on here. We don't think that we could have a C.J. Stroud kind of rookie run there with Daniels, do we? With Jane Daniels?
No.
I just think they have a little bit more to overcome, and they've got a talent level that they've got to elevate as well. They're in a tougher division. It's going to be tough for them to catch Dallas and Philadelphia in 1 year. Daniels is going to play well for him. He'll bring some energy, but I think they're a couple of years away.
Like it. All right, that's a sleeper pick. Hey, we're sitting here May 29th. The crystal ball is on the table, and we got to figure out who's right, who's wrong as we head into the fall. FNIA podcast. It's always a pleasure, fellas. We're writing them down. We'll remember them when we get to the time to really make. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
Can't wait.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.